The halal meat industry is big business, with the UK market worth close to £1 billion. Halal means meat prepared in accordance with Sharia law, but it's not just Muslims who are eating it.
If you come to an halal butcher like this one, you're going to be in no doubt about what you're buying, but increasingly halal meat's being sold right across the food chain, from supermarkets through to takeaways. The problem with that is, the only way you're going to know what you're buying is halal is if the seller decides to tell you.
Recent newspaper reports have exposed how many of us are unwittingly eating halal, showing how it's now found everywhere from school canteens to Wembley Stadium. That's a big problem for people like Ivan Johnson. He recently went to Wembley and is concerned he and his fellow fans were not warned they could be eating halal.
What are your concerns about halal meat?
The way that the animal is killed, the way that it's slaughtered by one cut as opposed to being stunned first. So to me, they do incur more suffering by just bleeding to death on the floor.
So Ivan's not a fan of halal, but he's agreed to put his concerns about animal welfare to the test by taking a tour of an halal abattoir. The Midland-based slaughterhouse is run by Navid Syed, who feels the production of halal is coming in for unjustified criticism.
Contrary to what people says, you know, we are humanely treating, and by having a look, I hope you can see if it's whether we are doing it inhumanely or not.
Yeah, they look very calm actually. Look very calm.
There are places that are selling halal meat without telling the consumer. Do you understand his point?
I understand his point, and I think he has a valid case at the end of the day. You know, we are conscious of, we want to know, as Muslims, I want to know if I'm eating halal or not, so it's very important to me. And that's why we always label all our products halal.
Navid says animal welfare is his main priority. He uses CCTV surveillance to monitor the animals.
All I can do is show you what we do. And if that is not acceptable to you, I apologise for it, but you have to accept that I am killing it.
As with all abattoirs in Britain, Navid's firm is regulated by the Food Standards Agency, with independent inspectors on hand to ensure all meat production adheres to government guidelines.
Well, as you can see, it's a very bloody business, but in reality, there's very little different happening here than it happens at every abattoir across the country. The only difference is the religious nature of the slaughter, and that's what's caused so much controversy.
Ivan has reached the killing station, the place where the lives of up to 15,000 lambs a week are brought to an end in accordance with Sharia law. But can Navid ease Ivan's concerns about animal welfare during halal slaughter?
Ivan, you'll see the animals coming in, and you'll see the first slaughterman actually stunning it.
Yeah.
The second one is about to shackle it, and the third one has cut his throat. So within 3.5 seconds, the whole process is done.
And Navid, what is the difference between this slaughterhouse and the conventional one?
We ensure that the Muslim performs the slaughtering.
Yeah.
He says, Bismillah Allahu Akbar, in the name of God Almighty. And that's it, Ivan. And every slaughterhouse cuts the animal's throat.
So, this abattoir does stun its animals, but that's not always the case. Some believe that for the meat to be truly halal, the animal must be fully conscious at the time of slaughter. This is perfectly legal, as like kosher meat production, abattoirs can apply for a special dispensation not to stun on religious grounds. Research estimates 12% of UK halal red meat is produced this way, but opponents believe this causes the animal to suffer.
Is it allayed some of your animal welfare concerns that you had about how halal was killed?
Yeah, it is in this one, yeah, without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, I saw the nerve movements of the animal, but I didn't see any suffering. When they were stunned, I saw the eyes turn over, which indicated to me that the animal was basically out.
Yeah.
So consequently, when the throat was cut, they didn't feel any pain at all.
Estimates say 75% of imported New Zealand lamb and 30% of UK lamb is halal. It's being served in schools and some of our largest supermarket chains. But until recently, most consumers were unaware. But there's no doubt about the origins of the lamb being served here. It was all sourced from Navid's own halal abattoir.
Are you now happy with a bit more knowledge to eat halal meat?
Very much so, yeah.
You still want halal meat to be clearly labelled?
I would like to think so, just to give, it's freedom of choice, isn't it? be able to choose what you want to eat when you want to eat it.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islam Today on Ahlul Bayt live on Saturday evening with me, Rebecca Masterton, and that was a clip of the process of slaughtering meat, and we know that this is a very hot topic these days for many reasons, but tonight we're going to be asking how halal is halal meat, and how far do we really need to go to ensure that the meat that we're eating is halal. Tonight, inshallah, my guests are Brother Murtaza Jafar and also Brother Hussein Nashid, and who has been on the show before. And inshallah, do feel free to call in with any questions or comments, your thoughts on should we really kick up a fuss about halal meat, and should we just buy it if there's a label on it? Is that sufficient just to eat it? Or are we going to reap the consequences in the afterlife if we don't actually make sure that what we eat is properly halal? Assalamu alaikum, welcome. So, just to introduce yourself to our audience, give a little bit of background about yourself.
How can I say? I work at the channel. I produce at the channel. Various shows, 3 shows in particular: Eyewitness, Awaited, and Talking Point. I've been at the channel for about 4 months, coming up to 4 months now. Alhamdulillah, it's been really good. Every day I learn something new, whether it's exporting content or filming, or I'm not a very good cameraman, but
Inshallah.
getting there, alhamdulillah. This is my first time coming on live, so yeah, it's not bad.
Alhamdulillah. So just a little bit on this topic. What do you do to ensure that what you eat, particularly the meat that you eat, is halal? Or what does your family do to ensure that it's halal?
Well, personally, I don't know. It's sort of gone in sort of peaks and troughs and stuff. Like there was one point where I didn't eat meat.
Okay.
I thought, no, I don't trust any of it. And then, I don't know, you slowly start and then sort of standards drop and stuff. But generally speaking, I try and be as careful as possible. Some people think I'm being a little bit extreme and stuff, but I don't know, it's very hard to find that trust because, statistics out there, you speak to people who work at butchers and stuff, and it seems I'll probably say this a couple of times this show, but the amount that is supplied does not add up to the amount that is consumed, which means we've really got a challenge on our hands. And personally speaking, I don't think we're making enough effort to source our halal meat. We're kind of going along the lines that, okay, the Sharia has stated that, okay, the guy's a Muslim, he said it's halal, I'm going to eat. I don't know if that carries as much weight as if you're living in a Muslim country.
Right.
We might need to relook at that and sort of look at our situation here in the West.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, actually. Brother Hussein, you've been on the program before, but could you just remind our viewers again a little bit about your background? I mean, you were talking about youth.
Yeah,
so,
the last time I was talking about growing up in East London.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, been here since '92, grown up here, so most of my life in the UK.
Yeah.
Travel quite a lot to give talks in Muharram, Ramadan. Other than that, just your average Joe, really. Nothing special there. But on the subject of halal haram, if you want to talk about how, for us as a family that came from a Muslim country where you'd never have to ask whether something's halal or haram, you just literally walk into the shop. So growing up, I remember as a kid, wherever we went, we'd see my dad just reading labels, so that was the kind of family that we grew up in, where you'd have to read the label of everything to ascertain whether it was halal or haram. Some friends at school made jokes about it, but again, it is what it is. We just have to be more conscious about what we eat. How halal is the food? It's tough to say. Again, like Murtaza put it, you speak to people, especially butchers, and they'll tell you themselves. I had a friend, I would say more of an associate, back in about 99 to 2002. We went to the same college, and he started working part-time in the butchers, and he came and he said, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. Wow. So this was like our local trusted butchers. And so he worked in the abattoir which supplied them.
Right.
So what he was saying was that all the animals, whether HMC or not approved, would be stunned first, and then they would be slaughtered.
Right.
Now, obviously, from our Aqidah point of view, we differed. You know, he came from one school of thought, I came from another. But generally, halal is halal. You know, we agree on how it should be slaughtered. So there was that phase where we thought, you know, everything is haram. You know, it's not really halal. It's difficult, really, I guess.
I mean, I have read. I read actually before. Well, just before I came here, that there's actually a slaughterhouse run by a non-Muslim, but what he does to ensure that the meat is halal is not to kill the animal by stunning, but to stun it enough just to make it unconscious for 2 minutes.
And then
it's slaughtered. But I don't know.
It's from a fiqh point of view, and again, mainly when I give talks, my focus is on historical Islam, historical development of Islam. So fiqh, marja'iyya, that stuff is not my strong field, but I do read, you know, just as much as the next man. And from a fiqh point of view, there was something that I was reading about whether an animal is already injured, can you halal it or not? So for example, a sheep, so on and so forth. Now, it's a philosophical debate which is taking place between the marja'iyya, and inshallah, obviously, when they conclude on that, they will get to us. But in the meantime, I think what it comes to is whether you intentionally injured that animal to slaughter it, or whether the animal was already injured by, like, for example, there was one ruling, if a sheep had been attacked by a wolf, can you still eat it halal or not? And the argument was, according to Sharia law, if all four, there's like 4 parts of the jugular, 4 arteries, if they're all intact, you can still halal the animal, right? So for example, if only the leg's been damaged or so on and so forth. But here now you're shocking the animal. How do you know if it's dead or not? Because one of the signs before you halal the animal to know whether it's alive or not is it should be blinking.
Right.
So if it's not going to do that, if there is no sign of life within the animal, how can you ascertain whether it was dead or alive at the time of being halal? It's complicated, to say the least.
Thank you. We've got a caller on the line, which we're going to take. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sister, my name is Mohammed.
Welcome.
And I represent a Muslim. I'm just trying to switch this TV down.
Okay.
My name is Mohammed.
Welcome.
And I represent a company called National Halal Center.
Okay.
We are a Islamic brand where we guarantee the end-to-end process, and I just wanted to share this with your viewers. That alhamdulillah, the process that we do is, number one, the brothers who are selected for Zabiha. This is the unique selling point of the brand that we are creating.
Right.
Ensuring that they are practicing Muslim, number one. Number two, they are qualified by the local veterinary. Secondly, that the funds that we are using for this sector are all without riba. So we are, inshallah, bringing a solution, an end-to-end solution for the Muslim Ummah, based purely according to the Sunnah. That it is totally Sharia compliant, not just the Zabiha method, not just that the animals are healthy, but even the funds involved are without riba. So technically makes it an Islamic brand, not a Muslim brand. There are many businesses out there which are Muslim brands. We are trying to differ from that and saying that there is absolutely no compromise. And I just wanted to share that with you. Alhamdulillah, we have grown from serving 30 to about 300 members of staff, all Muslims. Alhamdulillah. And we have grown from 1 branch to 30 branch in the last 3 years. Alhamdulillah.
Can I ask you where you're based?
Yeah, we are a Birmingham-based business, but we have branches pretty much over London, Manchester, Blackburn, Leicester, so forth, inshallah.
Just
but a unique selling point is the end-to-end process is under one roof. We have a lot of halal open days. We don't have any certification. We don't take anybody's certification. We feel that that's a cost that why should a consumer pay? We welcome visits behind the scene, as they say. Visits to abattoirs educationally, especially during Eid festivals.
Yeah.
We have a lot of school visits, university visits. Alhamdulillah, I'm just very proud to be associated with this Islamic brand that even in this country, which is the only Western country where Zabiha, according to Sunnah, is part of the food legislation. Unfortunately, Muslims as well as non-Muslims are feeding the Ummah with product which is, we call it fake halal.
Yeah.
I don't want to say haram because that is a very strong word, but it is fake halal.
Yeah.
So Alhamdulillah, in a small, humble way, we have made some progress. Some very good Muslim brothers who were studying with me at university, we teamed up together, and I feel that we're on a road of transforming this pottage industry into mainstream industry, inshallah.
Yeah,
Inshallah. We wish you the success.
Before he goes, I've got a question.
Well, we both have questions. We got
Bismillah.
No.
Is it Brother Muhammad, he said?
Yes.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Or something.
You mentioned a very good point there, that you don't have any certificates.
Yes.
Can I ask you, generally speaking, as a business to consumer, what do you feel, why do we feel this, like for example, there's is it HFA and HMC right now, and there's a big debate on which one is halal and which one's not. What do you think is the importance in the consumer having trust in a certificate and actually not going out, the extra mile to make sure that it's halal? Because as far as we know, when we walk into a place, all we see is a certificate that could have been copied from anywhere and just put on a shop saying HMC. So you've decided not to go down that route. What's the difficulties you're going to find in obviously selling your food as halal, and how do people trust that?
Okay, we studied this aspect of the industry. This is halal certification is a business valued in UK approximately annually about 25 billion. Unfortunately, the purpose of setting these companies up was to make money, not to ensure that the traceability, transparency, and cross-contamination does not get compromised.
Okay.
That should have been the focus.
True.
We just need to pick up the sample from the kosher, from our Jewish cousins. Our Jewish cousins, alhamdulillah, their process is absolutely policed correctly. There is no issue. There is never cross-contamination. If we travel in UK, anywhere we go, we say, do you have halal? Whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a cafe, everybody say, yes, we have halal. But if you ask them, do you have kosher? They wouldn't know what to say. Because halal is the most abused word. Coming back to your question about certification, we live in this country. And what we are saying to DEFRA, which is the body here, that we are part and parcel of this society. Approximately 3 million Muslims are 5% of the UK population. We consume just under 30% of the local lamb produce. What we require is a correct central label. That label should say that everything that is slaughtered according to the Sunnah by a practicing Muslim who prays 5 times a day without any form of stunning, no compromise on any welfare practices which were prescribed to us as Muslims, prescribed to us as a ummah to Prophet Abraham 1434 years ago. That should be labeled as halal or kosher. Anything that has been tampered with should then be labeled as, okay, this has been done by water stunning or electrical stunning or whatever, and put that on the label so the consumer can make the choice. Exactly. If we go out to any supermarket today, we will see at least 100 different halal or so-called halal brands. I can challenge this, and they have fake certification bodies. Yes, HMC have done some work. Yes, HFA had done some work, but there are unfortunately major gaps. For example, in HMC, they do not take responsibility of Zabiha. One of their inspectors or their supervisor stands 6-8 feet away from a person who is carrying out the Zabiha. How would that person know or hear that whether the tasmiyah is being recited correctly over each animal or each bird? It is practically not possible. So we have taken that ownership of that. Okay, Zabiha, we are not going to outsource. This is a unique selling point. That is why we are calling it an Islamic brand rather than a Muslim brand.
Well,
Alhamdulillah. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, there's also the issue of the legality, obviously, of this method of slaughtering in European countries, because isn't it the law that the animal has to be stunned? I mean, just as I mentioned earlier, one slaughterhouse that was owned by a non-Muslim was kind of going 50-50. That he said that, well, what we do is we stun the animal not to kill it, but to kind of make it unconscious for 2 minutes, and then they, you know, the slaughtermen will do the slaughter. So, how do you? What's the issue with regard to the law on this?
Well, as I said earlier, as far as United Kingdom is concerned, we as British Muslims are blessed. We are blessed because one of the better things that Tony Blair did for Muslims was to ensure that halal became part and parcel of the food legislation of this country. And by the way, this is the only European Muslim country to have this.
Okay.
Secondly, I mean, we have been consuming halal for the past 250 years, and we were. This was because of the Jewish kosher. We were exempted as Muslims, but now, alhamdulillah, we have Islamic Bank, a UK registered Islamic bank. 25 years ago, it wouldn't. The Bank of England refused it. Today, we have halal food. The legislation is there. We have Islamic school. These are our three fundamental subjects as Muslims. So this is the most tolerant society in the world where we are living, and enjoying and practicing our sunnah literally as it has been prescribed. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, due to the G factor, due to the greed factor, many people have sold their conscience for a few pounds, for a few dollars.
Yeah.
And this is a jihad against haram. And we know there's an authentic narration by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that if we Muslims do not consume halal according to the sunnah, then our ibadat are not registered with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for up to 40 days.
Yeah.
So the awareness of this hadith, unfortunately, it lacks people. People don't understand that everything that we do is nullified if we don't consume halal. Mm. So we as an Islamic brand, we are a British Islamic brand, are trying in our own humble way. We request for your du'as and support is to ensure that we fight this jihad. And by the way, there was a Sunday Times. It was on the front page of Sunday Times approximately 6-8 months ago, where there is an independent survey, and they came out with that 95% of products sold in to Muslims is technically not halal. And the brother made a comment earlier, yes, there is a demand, yes, there is a gap, and that demand is being met by those people who are feeding I have heard stories where people have said, okay, pack even pet food in a box, label it halal, the Muslims will eat it.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, this is the reality.
Yeah.
So truly an Islamic brand means that all ethics, right from not just the zabiha, not just the animals must be healthy, even the funds should be halal. Everything should be according to the book. Then you can develop that in a way. So, alhamdulillah, this is what we are trying to make a small effort, because I always say to myself and to my brothers who are working with us that we are representatives of and brand ambassadors of the halal brand, which belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay. Thank you so much for your very interesting and helpful call with regard to this discussion. We've just got 5 minutes till we go to break, but another issue that we could mention is the fact that Brother Montes, you said you didn't eat meat for a while. And when we go to Muslim countries, we see a lot of meat. And nowadays, it's kind of like a meal is not considered a meal if there's no meat in it. Yeah. And I remember when I lived in Iran for a few months, and I remember I produced a meal without meat, and it kind of caused a bit of earthquake tremors.
Yeah.
Sort of.
It's funny because
it's almost like an insult if you don't give someone meat.
It's like an oxymoron, because this is as far as I know, this is the only religion where some religions say to you, no, you can't eat meat full stop, and some religions say you can, right? But this is the only religion that tries to find that middle ground.
Yeah.
So we are allowed to eat meat, but then, especially for the Shias, like Imam Ali alayhi salam says, don't make your stomach the cemetery of animals.
Yeah.
You know, don't make it a graveyard for animals. But we have meat 3 times a day. You know, every meal has to have some form of, you know, animal product there. Be it in the morning you're having eggs. You know, we don't do vegetarian at all. It's like an insult to ourselves if we did do vegetarian. So halal, the question of halal is really important, especially if you think about it. That's what we consume every day, and Islam really does believe you are what you eat. It does have an effect on you, as the brother Muhammad beautifully put it. That, you know, even there's doubt in your worship for 40 days. You know, whether you're worshiping correctly or not, because you've consumed something which is haram. And we'll come back to that point after the break, but it's difficult. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Brother Murtaza, do you now, where are you at with your?
I don't know. I mean, like a few weeks back on the big question, we had Brother Ali Reza Jaffer, who brought representatives from HMC, HFA. I think National Halal Centre were invited as well, and each panelist, I mean, this call was amazing. It was really good. It was really helpful from his point of view, and he clarified a number of points. But I'm sure if we had a call from the representative of HMC, he'd be able to tell us and convince us in a similar fashion.
Right.
Which kind of sort of just brings about more doubt, because on the face of it, everyone has got a good story to tell. I don't doubt this brother at all. In fact, I'm going to go look for some of his produce. But the thing is that it's so confusing now, because there's so many people who talk the talk. But in terms of finding who's actually producing the right produce, it comes down to us as the consumer. We need to put the legwork in. We need to go out to the abattoirs. We need to, as a community, we should have representatives, people that we trust from the community, go out to abattoirs and say, okay, this abattoir ticks our boxes. Which I feel, I mean, you asked me personally, what am I doing? I haven't done enough. Which I think is what is the problem. We need to go to these abattoirs. We need to sit down, understand what it is that is actually required for halal, and if these abattoirs are producing that.
Because I was reading again an article. It's actually by a Muslim man who set up again his own halal produce, because when he looked into he actually did visit abattoirs. He said that he actually found out that some of the slaughterers weren't actually Muslim. And he said that there was one slaughterhouse was owned by a Muslim, but the slaughterers themselves weren't Muslim, and the Muslim owner said to the man investigating, he reads a prayer on them or something and gives them to us. And with that, we'll go to our break, and we can all reflect upon what we're going to have for dinner tonight, if we haven't eaten already. And we're going to break also for Salah for about 10 minutes, and inshallah, we'll see you afterwards. Assalamu alaikum.